How can a county district attorney bring charges against a federal official who's giving his opinion at the Department of Justice? So it is absolutely outrageous what's taking place in this country. What's going on in this country to Trump, they now are trying to destroy his business. They're trying to steal it from him. They're trying to take his licenses away. They're trying to put part of his business under a third party, like a conservator of sorts. You know damn well if Donald Trump hadn't run for president, none of this would be going on. If he'd been in the Reform Party, the Democrat Party, none of this would be going on. He dared to run for president. He dared to run as a Republican. That's the truth. The judge in this case is another one of these hacks. He's elected. He's a Democrat. The prosecutor, of course, should have been disbarred a long time ago for campaigning on saying that she's going to indict the president, now the former president. For people who aren't lawyers, you can't say stuff like that and then follow through with it. In this case, on the civil side. This case should have been heard really by the commercial litigation part of the civil litigation court in New York, but this judge decided to hold on to it. President Trump's lawyers wanted a jury trial. The judge decided to hold on to it. It's not a criminal case, a civil case. The president's lawyers moved for summary judgment, saying, among other things, look, no offense was committed here. There are no victims. Every penny that he borrowed was paid back. He leveraged as collateral his properties. He said they were properly, the values were properly determined at the time. And to show you how crazy this judge is, Mar-a-Lago is right on the Atlantic Ocean. It is a magnificent building. And Trump bought it when it was pretty much in squalor. It's several acres. It is really the diamond in all of the Palm Beach homes. The size of the place, the amount of property, the upkeep, the beauty, the art in the building itself. I've been there. You guys have been there. So you know what the Attorney General of New York and the judge value that property at? $18 million. It has to be worth $250 million. How do I know that? Because I saw recently that Rush Limbaugh, whose home I knew about, that his property sold for something like $150 million. And it's no Mar-a-Lago. Beautiful property. What Rush would do quietly is he'd buy up some of the properties around him for security and other reasons, and he would do it when the market was flat. He was a very smart businessman. $18 million. That property is worth $250 million. So it's not Trump who's undervaluing or overvaluing these properties. It is the judge and the Attorney General in New York, who probably have never even visited the property, who are undervaluing it. And Trump makes the point, these are sophisticated banks. And we have disclaimers in there that they can go ahead and check the valuations themselves or have independent people make a determination on what the value is. These aren't some, backdoor loan sharks. These are major banking institutions with major law firms and so forth and so on, who have the ability to check out these properties and so forth and so on. And so all the loans were paid. They were all paid on time. There was no ripoff. There isn't even a hint at a ripoff. There was never even a hint at any kind of fraud whatsoever. So the judge not only grabs the jurisdiction away from a commercial court, if you will, they have a different name for it, it doesn't really matter. He not only does not seat a jury, he decides on summary judgment that Donald Trump is guilty. And that now we'll proceed to the trial part on a few other issues, and then he'll determine further damages. But can you imagine? Now step back and look at all this. So you have Letitia James in Albany, who is destroying Donald Trump's business. She's the one that went after the NRA that decided, you know what, we're getting out of New York and moved to Texas. it's clear what she's doing. You have the prosecutor in Manhattan who has taken what are ridiculous non-disclosure agreements, is applying state and, frankly, federal law. He's lying about what he's doing. But you have another Democrat judge there who refused to dismiss the case. And so you know this case, the indictments, everybody says it's an illegitimate case, but the Democrats and the left, they're excited if they can get him found guilty of one charge. Again, attack on his business. Then, of course, you have the federal prosecutor in Washington, D.C., we've talked all about him, bringing a documents case against the former president and piles on over 40 charges, tries to get the president on obstruction, has flipped apparently a witness who was in charge of IT at Mar-a-Lago to testify that, yes, he was told to stay away from the boxes or do something or other. And you're trying to entrap and trick a former president, the leading Republican nominee, to go up against the administration for whom this man works, the prosecutor? You don't do that to former presidents or presidential candidates. And what harm exactly was done? Zero. Nothing. So they turn this into not just a federal case, but a multi-felony case. If that were the only case on the table, and Donald Trump is convicted of all charges, he'd be in prison the rest of his life. A documents case. Then you go to January 6th. It's amazing. He's not charged with sedition or insurrection. He's charged with denying people rights under Ku Klux Klan law. He's charged with obstruction in terms of withholding information. Nobody even knows really what information they're talking about. In a post-Enron statute that was passed because they realized they didn't have any statute, any criminal statute when Enron executives were destroying records that were subpoenaed by Congress. They weren't violating any law, so they passed a law to deal with that. 2 of the 4 charges involve that. And then the last charge is a financial charge that's typically used for financial crimes if federal contractors and others, grantees, are abusing the dollars that they receive from the federal government and so forth. That has nothing to do with January 6th. So you have those 2 cases, and I won't even get into the judge now, I've done that before. And then you have this 4th case where Attorney General Meese feels so strongly about it, he signed an affidavit in support of the former Assistant Attorney General, Joseph Clark, who's made out to be this horrendous bandit at the January 6th hearings, such as they were. And Clark committed the crime. You know what crime he committed? He wrote an opinion for the President of the United States about what he thought could be done under the Constitution and federal election laws in Georgia. So he's accused of making false statements with that document. False statements to whom? He's a lawyer. Lawyers have opinions, or they become advocates. And he's also charged with obstructing or interfering with the election because he wrote that opinion. A federal official at the Department of Justice writes an opinion about what's going on in Georgia and what may be done about it. And he's facing felony charges at the state level. Now, Ed Meese's affidavit, which I read, which is brilliant, he not only challenges that, the idea that a federal official can't give an opinion to a state, to his own department, or President of the United States, and that's a crime. But obviously, he's a federal official. How can a county district attorney bring charges against a federal official who's giving his opinion at the Department of Justice? So it is absolutely outrageous what's taking place in this country. And this is what the Democrats do. I don't care if it's the border, law enforcement, they're targeting Trump or other citizens, the economy. It just doesn't matter. These people are on a burn, and they are on the attack. So anyway, take a listen to this. This is MSNBC The Beat with Ari Melber, who's a jackass. Jackass with a law degree. Cut 7, go.
A new ruling late today finds Donald Trump and his business guilty of fraud. This is a major legal blow, and it is rocking both Donald Trump and his companies. A New York judge ruling late today that Donald Trump defrauded banks and insurers across his business activities, not once or twice, but repeatedly, sometimes routinely, for years. You see the AP headline there. Trump Repeatedly is the word of the judge.
So here we go. So the judge, the context of all this is not discussed. The judge is the jury. He takes the New York Attorney General's charges and basically regurgitates them within his own opinion. That's what you have here. So all the content, this is why when you talk to a lot of liberals who watch these damnable programs on MSNBC and CNN, they have no idea really what's going on. Go ahead.
Quote, repeatedly submitted fraudulent financial documents. This is now, right here tonight, this news, the largest victory yet for the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, and her ongoing clash with Trump. Now, you may recall...
See? When you're an attorney general of a state, you're not supposed to have an ongoing clash with anybody. You're supposed to do the state's work. You're not supposed to be hunting down a businessman who you don't like, and then you go in front of a radical left-wing Democrat-elected judge who does your dirty work for you. None of this is supposed to be going on. You notice how they defend Hunter Biden to the end, and they defend Joe Biden to the end, and some of them even Menendez, although they want to, many of them get rid of Menendez because they don't want to lose that seat. Pretty much that's why. But look at the difference in treatment. Go ahead.
He had already forced him into contempt proceedings and forced him to testify, where he then pled the fifth. Today's new ruling vindicates, as a legal matter, the thrust, the core of her case.
All right, that's enough. Doesn't vindicate a damn thing. Unless, of course, your hero is Stalin, then you're being vindicated all over the place.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to levintv.com and subscribe now.